Good morning, everyone. This is Food is a Conversation, Alumni Edition, number 19. Oh, wow, we are approaching the 20th session soon. I'm very excited about today's alumnus because we actually studied together in 2018. He's dialing in from Milan and he will tell you a bit more about food science, food innovation, and a lot of things. So, these conversations are about to introduce ecosystem members who attended any of the educational programs organized by the Future Food Institute. That can be the food innovation or the digital bootcamps, what we are organizing together with FAO. This being said, hi Marie.
Hi.
Hi. I quickly finish the intro and then we can start. So I just mentioned the boot camps, what is a joint project with FAO, and this is actually approaching in 2.5 weeks. We are kicking off with a digital version because obviously we also needed to rethink how to deliver transformational learning opportunities without including travel and people moving all over the world. I'm really excited about this bootcamp. So check it out. I think if you go on in our bio, you will have the direct link and you can see all the content. But now back to these conversations. They happen twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays normally. And we make sure that we cover all different time zones. So that one session is in the morning like this one and another one is in the evening. And it is a very casual conversation. It's about introducing you the people who we work together with, who we met during the journey, what we started at Future Food. And you will hear about their stories, their local food systems, and what they are currently busy with. So I encourage everyone to please post questions in the chat and I will make sure that we don't miss any of them. And now, without any further ado, Murray, the stage is yours.
So, hi, hi everyone. Everyone who's listening. I'm Murray Elphick. I'm from South Africa. I moved to Italy in 2018 to do my master's in food innovation with Julia. And I've been there ever since, currently in Milan, working with the Future Food Institute in the innovation department mostly.
Nice.
Oh, and I have a
So,
background in food science with biochemistry.
exactly. And that leads me to the first question I actually have for you. So, sorry about doing this spoiler, but Mary was one of the youngest participants during the master program. So that's also one of the diversity elements of the course. I was already in my 30s when we started together to study it together, and he just graduated from the Stellenbosch University as a food scientist. So I would like to hear a bit about the experience you had there. So what kind of study experiences you have, and what was your focus, or how did you specialize or shaped your interest in food during that time?
Yeah, so yeah, I studied food science, as I said, with biochemistry. The reason I chose it was so in South Africa, when you're around 16 or 17, if you are deciding to take the higher education route, you kind of need to start thinking about where you want to go because you have to start choosing your subjects and really start directing yourself. So at the time, I was super interested in science and mathematics. But at the same time, at the back of my mind, I had this romanticized notion about being a farmer. So I could do things with my hands. It was a lot more tactile. I had this idea of waking up early, working under the sun outside, and it was like really, it was big for me. And then I fell into food science because I managed to find a science degree to do with food. I like food. But then also have that it was part of the agricultural faculty at Stellenbosch. So it kind of ticked all of the boxes. So I was super lucky to find it. Um, and then I got accepted and later actually found out that Stellenbosch was the top ranked food science department in the whole of Africa, which I was super excited about when I found out as well. Um, Yeah, and the degree itself was super broad. We did chemistry, biochemistry, biology, mathematics, biometry, all of these different subjects. So it really did a great job of, over the first 3 years, kind of spreading you out super, like over a wide number of disciplines, also kind of like the food innovation program, with the intention of kind of trying to expose you to, obviously also build your fundamentals, but then expose you to all of these different areas of the food science discipline. Then when we got to our fourth year, that's when we kind of specialized a little bit more, or specialize a little bit more. Yeah, so every single year the department comes up with a topic, and then the final year students will take part or conduct a full NPD cycle, depending on the topic. So our topic that year was value
Sorry,
from waste.
you have to tell people what is MPD. Not everyone knows that.
Uh,
Thanks.
New product development. So we had to try and come up with, start with the ideation phase and then kind of carry that through up until we had a product that we could essentially put on the shelf, and people could buy or try or eat or whatever. So our topic in my final year was value from waste. So we decided to make a quick cook noodle product with a broth. And by the end, we managed to get to around 60 or 70% of the product being waste, which we were super excited about. Maybe not mega viable in the real world when you have to imagine all of the different things that go into it. But we really tried to push the envelope, and we really tried to get it as in tune with the brief as possible. So yeah, that was the main project that we did. It took a full year. We went through the microbiological testing. We went through the chemical testing, which is coming up with a nutrition label, all of the legal side of it, trying to come up with claims. And finally, we ended with noodles, which was our NU noodles, like new, but
Yes.
noodles, which was meant to kind of explain how it doesn't have anything extra in it. It's just as natural as possible. Fun fact,
Great.
that's where the name came from.
Great. So you do have an interest in finding like ways of repurposing waste, byproducts, and so on in the food system. Does that have anything to do with the fact that you then started to continue your studies afterwards?
Yeah, so actually, funnily enough, when I entered the food innovation program, which we did together, I actually found out about it because in the very first phase of our product development process, we were doing all of the research, and I kind of, like maybe a typical millennial, I decided to Google how to be innovative. Google's the best friend for students, I guess for everyone. So I was Googling how to be innovative and how to come up with an innovative idea. And the first link that I clicked ended up being the food innovation program. And it kind of like, it ticked so many boxes for me, and it seemed so exciting. And the idea of someone being able to study abroad and go through all of these different phases, and of course the global mission was at that time maybe felt like a pipe dream, like something that was totally outside of the realm of possibilities, but it ended up happening, and that's kind of how I fell into the food innovation program
Nice.
originally.
Yes. So now, like, let's go to Italy. So you actually applied, you got in. We were 15 students together, literally from all over the world, from South America to China, and then we had this great structure of having an inspiration phase, having different lecturers coming in, teaching us about the whole food system. And then having the aspiration phase when we were traveling around the world to research, and then the perspiration where we could actually use all the learnings and findings and insights into real life situations because we were assigned to companies. So can you maybe tell me a bit about what were your main learnings So if you can remember that inspiration report me handed in, no, just kidding. So whatever, like your major major takeaways, your experiences during the global mission, it can be also like more personal improvement elements, everything.
Yeah. So as you said, the first phase was kind of also kind of like my food science degree. It was geared towards kind of expanding you as much as possible. So we dealt with, correct me if I'm wrong, and like jump in, please. We dealt with like logistics, with nutrition, with some engineering aspects. We did design thinking. We did supply chain, like all sorts of different subjects that were kind of gauged or directed at getting us a base knowledge to prepare us for the next phase, which was really like the big part of it. Yeah, so after we finished all of those modules, we went on the Food Innovation Global Mission. We were in a group together. As I'm sure you remember, our topic was agro-innovation in smart cities. We went to, oh, you're gonna have to correct me here, 12 countries.
Yeah, I think it's 12 countries, 15 cities altogether, like counting both teams. Yes.
Yeah. So we went to a lot of places, trying to research the topic of agricultural innovation in smart cities and figuring out how agriculture kind of fits into the modern world, and the role it might play in the future. So it was quite exhausting in the best possible way. 60 days of travel, late nights, working, talking to some of the most incredible minds that I've ever been exposed to, speaking to some of the biggest companies in the world to share our findings and all of that sort of stuff. And we ended up coming up with a pillar system to try and gauge how in tune a country or a city is in terms of their acceptance of agriculture and how they plan their future. Then after the 2 months, and if you think of anything that you want to ask, please jump in.
Yes, I have a question. I know it's very difficult or hard to answer or pick from all those because 60 days really like loaded with experiences. But if you could name your favorite finding or company or conversation, could you think of any of them?
Maybe one of the, I have one. One that I was like super, super nervous about was when we were in San Francisco, and then we found out that we were talking or speaking at the Design Week. And that was, I think, our first major speech. So maybe not like the biggest conversation because it was just kind of talking, and then we went back into the crowd. So it wasn't so much conversation based, but it was the very first time that we kind of presented our findings. And I remember being super, super nervous. Everyone, like, I think we had, I don't know, like 10 rows of people. So not like incredibly massive crowd, but I remember seeing, and it just seemed like an endless number of people, and I was like freaking out. But I think that was a very impactful moment, maybe for all of us, but talking from my perspective, because it was a moment where it was kind of a validation in the sense that it was still in the beginning part of the journey. We had seen all of these things already that were incredible for us, can I say? And it kind of got to the point where it wasn't just things that we were seeing, but it was things that we were trying to learn from and then presenting to people and kind of make it into a format that was helpful. So that was probably one of the most impactful moments in terms of like the growth side of it and kind of pushing us into the deep end of, okay, now you've gone to these places, but you also have to talk about it, and you have to condense that into a format that is useful to people and exciting. So yeah.
If I may add something, I think it was great because it was not necessarily to a special audience who is anyway in the same like researching or working in the same area. So we identified, or it was nice to see that whatever we learn, it's not just we repeat things, it is actually added value and new information for others, and it is very important to share this knowledge, because on this way we can actually encourage behavioral change in our food system. So yeah, just to round off. Okay, so but back in Italy after 60 days, and I see all of our fellows trying to start here a new global mission. Yeah, go on, I will be there. Tell me when do we need to travel, when we can again, finally. Yes, so we are back in Italy, and we are doing we did an embedded design thinking project. How was that experience for you?
So one of our modules during the very first phase was design thinking. The structure of the whole program was on design thinking, or based on design thinking. And that was maybe the first time that we were applying it to the real world, and to a company that was trying to come up with an actual solution to a problem. So it was a big moment. Well, I'm talking about a lot of big moments. It was a big moment in the sense that it was taking something that you learned during the program and directly applying it to a very specific thing, from start to finish. So, and also going back to my final year of university, that was kind of following a traditional, or a more traditional process of product development, whereas the design thinking process kind of is a spin on that. It deals a lot more with the qualitative aspects of it, blended with the quantitative, but talking to consumers, understanding what they need, not necessarily what we want to create and then give to them, but really trying to fill a sort of need that they have. So it was the first time that we were applying that sort of methodology to a real world situation. We were lucky enough, or my team was lucky enough, to work with Barilla and InBev, which are really, really amazing companies.
Tetra Pak, no?
Tetra Pak, sorry.
Yes.
Tetra Pak. Thank you. And yeah, it was the first time that we were working with big companies in this sort of way, and the teams that they provided were incredibly helpful, and really tried to create an environment that helped us to grow and expand our understanding of design thinking, and really get to the bottom of how to apply it in a real world scenario to create solutions that were well suited to people. So.
Yeah. Here I would have a question. I think this is something that still needs to be explained sometimes. The benefit of working in such teams, and here I would like to hear your opinion as well, not from the student perspective, but from the company perspective. They have resources in order to develop, to test, they have the client base already. However, having the students come in with their fresh ideas at that moment, coming from all over the world, is actually bringing that's like added value to their traditional or already used processes. So what could you say, maybe something more about this, because you are also involved in such projects currently?
In terms of bringing multicultural and multidisciplinary processes?
Yes, so like how does an external group, like we were at that moment, you for Barilla and Tetra Pak and me for CAMS, or the other team for Inalca, what was the main benefit of the companies having us on board?
So, yeah, I think that, or from the experience, I think a highly beneficial part of that is that you can draw on a team, at least in our case, a team that was very multidisciplinary. We had me as a food scientist, we had engineers, we had designers, we had loads of different people, all working kind of from different perspectives and different disciplines. They kind of created a solution that was not necessarily, and not to say that products development doesn't produce products that are well suited because they have multiple
Of
people
course.
going into it. But kind of the way that we did it, and we bringing a different process, allowed us to kind of embed our disciplines into the product in a way that was, we tried to make it as well-rounded as possible, and created a situation where the product wasn't, again, the backbone of our project wasn't to create just a product that we could push onto consumers, but really something that was well suited to them, and took their needs into account. Which kind of, I think that was the first taste of it. But then now in my current role, should I talk about my current role?
Yes, maybe we can lead into that.
So that kind of was the first, that project was the first taste of the process. But then in my current role now with the Future Food Institute, working in their innovation department, we've kind of taken that to the next step and kind of developed that a little bit, and changed it into our custom innovation journey, which is still based on design thinking, but it takes into account the consumer, also the planet, and then ultimately tries to produce a product that is well suited to the consumer, takes the planet into account, but then remains resilient in the future. So not something that we can do now, but something that can have impact for a sustained period of time, and really takes all of those different things into account. So the blending of what people need and also what the planet needs. The process takes in qualitative and quantitative research, because we want to try and create, or we want to get the best idea of our problem space, so that we can create something that is really well suited to that. So we now know what consumers need, but then we can back that up with numeric data, and we can really create something that is well suited to them. And then, yeah, so we kind of go through, there's lots of phases to the way that we do it. We start off with our benchmarking phase, where we are trying to get an idea of what's happening currently, what's going on, what's successful, what's not successful, what kind of is in track with what we're doing or what we're trying to look into. And then that kind of, that initial phase is built around kind of trying to inspire everyone in the team. So whether that's the team that we're working with or our internal team, and get everyone kind of inspired and thinking of these out of the box solutions, and thinking about what's possible, what maybe needs to be looked at a little bit harder, and really get people excited about the project. Then when we understand what's going on, we go to consumers, and we try and talk to them as much as possible. We try to understand how they interact with products, their pain points, the things that they like, the things that they don't like, the things that they would change, and really try to get into the shoes of the consumer and try to figure out, or the user, and try to figure out how we can make their life better by providing something for them being the kind of the operative word. Then from there, when we kind of understand, or we pinpointed what they might find useful, then we start with our prototyping phase. And this is kind of where we maybe differ a little bit, in the sense that we kind of take or differ from the traditional NPD product development process, in that we kind of embrace failure. We want to work as quickly as possible, iterate as quickly as possible on our prototypes, test them, change them, pivot as much as we can, so that we don't get stuck in one direction, but we kind of figure out, if this direction isn't going well, then let's go a little bit this way, and we'll figure out this one from what people said. And then this one is working better, but like a little bit lacking in this area, so let's quickly go in this, and we'll work as quickly as possible to try and create that ultimate product that is as quickly as possible, that has already been tested with consumers. We already understand how it fits into their lives, what they like, what they don't like, so that we can kind of speed up the process to come up with our MVP, that they then can go maybe through a traditional process afterwards and be tested with consumers and all of that. But trying to get from the inspiration phase of it, of us trying to find out what's happening in the world, all the way up until we've already tested with consumers 3, 4, 5 different times to come up with something that they can really be behind and really be excited by.
So we have a question from Ingrid. I really hope that I manage your first name well from the Instagram handle. So Ingrid is asking if you have an example of ideas what you're working on. And well, most of the time there is an NDA, like a non-disclosure agreement signed with companies. But if like whatever information you can give maybe to the audience, what kind of products or in which area are you active right now?
So I'm not sure if I can say examples of the products themselves, but I can say that we have dealt with alternate protein products and how to incorporate those into maybe other products that can make it a little bit easier for consumers who might be a little bit apprehensive and make that a little bit easier for them to try. We are dealing with upcycling, so trying to create processes that are as actually going back to my final year of university as well. So trying to make processes as efficient as possible and make sure that all of those streams that are coming out that are waste, I want to put in inverted commas because I was actually having an interesting conversation yesterday where when we work in a linear sort of process where we start with raw ingredients and we come up to the end product, everything that isn't in that one line is considered waste because it's not going into the end product. But when you start making that circular, then nothing that comes out or very little that comes out is termed waste. So that's why I'm using inverted commas, because I don't really like the idea of it being waste when it's still a part of the raw material that can be cycled back in. So we're dealing a lot with circularity and increasing the efficiency of processes to try and make sure that, I mean, that number gets thrown around a lot where a third of all food produced is wasted, right? Yes. So yeah, that's a big point for us, is we want to create an efficient cycle that kind of minimizes that as much as possible. So we're working a lot in circularity, in alternate proteins, in creating healthy alternatives to traditionally unhealthy products, but in a sustainable way. So kind of also linking that health of the planet with the health of people. So yeah, loads of different areas.
Yes. So Ingrid, I hope we could give you an answer just about the course as well, like relating back to the Food Innovation Master Program. It was always depending on the company who we worked for, what challenge we tried to find a solution for. And it's not necessarily a packaged product, a consumer good, but it could be also a new system to work with, or a new service they could provide for their customers. So like my team was working with a canteen provider, so public food procurement. Oh my God, canteens. Exactly. So our end product was not a packaged product on the supermarket shelves. So we have one more question, and we are actually approaching the end of our conversation, and that's coming from Elizabeth York. The question is, what's the most challenging thing about using the design thinking mindset in a scientific field?
So, and please, I'm not like I didn't go and study a whole degree in design thinking. So please don't like think that my impression of it is like the impression of someone that has like applied it or studied it in depth from start to finish. My studies has been more application based. So the difficulty, right? So for me, in the beginning, it was, so coming from a scientific background, I'm really driven by numbers. I was working in a lab. I would find a whole lot of, well, I would measure things, so numbers. I would work out things using formulas, numbers. I would go on scientific reports and read the numbers. So everything was very, very numeric based and very quantitative. And the difficulty was the transition to talk to people and kind of look at that more qualitative aspect. That was very new to me. sensory science was maybe as close as we got to qualitative data, but even that had a big quantitative aspect of it. So the difficulty for me was trying to transition to a world where I was where I was talking to people as much as possible, interviewing them, and kind of understanding how they interact with the product and how they physically would pick something up on the shelf, how they would interact with it, how they would read it, how they would put it back and pick something else, how they would compare it. Obviously, that's focusing on one specific part of the user journey, but yeah, so entering the world of qualitative data collection, which as I've gotten more used to and more comfortable with the process, I'm actually finding that and being taught that the best way to go about it is really blending the two worlds to create like an understanding of, I'm talking to you, I'm understanding what you need and what you want and how you interact with the product and where it becomes painful for you or difficult for you. Then looking at the data side of it and merging those things to have a solution or the ultimate product that is encompassing and it doesn't lack in certain areas that could be avoided. So yeah, so the difficulty, sorry, I'm like going very tangential. The difficulty was transitioning to a qualitative world and then going back to blending those two qualitative and quantitative areas to maybe work more effectively and come up with better solutions.
Great, thank you. I hope, Elizabeth, we could answer your question. And now, unfortunately, because we are actually over our 30 minutes, I would skip one of the questions, but the final one, what I ask from everyone, if you could describe in a short sentence, maybe, your preferred food future, how would that look like?
So my preferred food future, I think that it would be one where people and companies aren't so concerned about quantity, but also take quality into perspective. Obviously, it becomes difficult when you have to feed a lot of people. But the idea that we don't necessarily, so if we use meat as an example, it's not at all the only example, but if we use it as an easy one, where we don't necessarily have to have a steak every day, we can have that is a low quality, we can have one high quality steak a week or a month or whatever the case may be, but really trying to understand that when you compromise on quality, quite often you compromise on a lot of other aspects that might impact yourself in a health perspective, in a well-being perspective, impact the world in a from an intensive perspective. So kind of working with that moderation and working with that quality to try and minimize waste and maximize the goodness that a product can provide.
Great. Thank you so much. I think these are pretty good closing words for today. So this was Food is a Conversation, Alumni Edition 19. Please join us next week, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Central European Time, where I'm actually having another South African alumna from our 2018 Food Innovation Master Program. And I think by then I actually covered all South Africans from our year. And so if you have further questions, please don't hesitate to send us a direct message, or now you even know how to reach Murray, so you can directly go to him with all your scientific or design thinking and innovation questions. And again, a bit of an advertisement, please check out the Digital Bootcamp. If you would like to have a transformational learning experience the upcoming month, it will be 4 weeks, not full time, but with global discoveries and a lot of experiences, then this is your time, apply, and then you can have a lovely conversation with me over the next weeks to figure out if you could join the 4 tracks, namely climate smart cities, oceans, farms, or regenerative kitchens. So Murray, thank you so much again for your time. It was fun to see you again, and hopefully talk soon.
See, cool. Thank you very much. It was awesome to chat.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.